Hello and welcome to Issues and Answers. I am your host, Claudia Monlouis. Today we are shining the spotlight on the Saint Lucia Integrity Commission, an institution established to maintain and promote good governance, transparency, and accountability in our society. And to guide us through this very important conversation, I am pleased to welcome Reverend Deacon David Popo, who is the chairman of the commission, Mrs. Silma Boyce Finiste, who is the attorney, and Mr. Matthias Polius, who is the auditor. Welcome to the studios of the Government Information Service National Television Network. It is a pleasure to have you. And diving right in, we would like to start at the beginning and to look at the mandate of the commission. How was the commission appointed and your tenure?
So, good morning and thank you very much, Ms. Monlouis and the audience. The Integrity Commission of St. Lucia has been around for a little while. It is, in fact, from what I've learned, it is a constitutional requirement under the Constitution, I think sections 118 and 119 of the Constitution. So that basically would be the framework for the mandate. The Integrity Commission itself, as a mechanism, as you said earlier on, in terms of promoting good governance, accountability, especially among public servants and other persons who operate within the public sphere, was within the context of the Integrity in Public Life Act of 2003, but the actual commission commenced in 2006. And as you said, we are aware that in every country, in most societies, because of the structural arrangements in the societies and in government, one is open to corruption. Let me say very quickly that, very quickly, there's a saying, there's an African saying that if you have two persons fighting or arguing about money which is not theirs, that's a sign of corruption. So I'm saying that just to capture that in terms of the purpose, of the Integrity Commission.
I love that analogy. And Mrs. Finiste, I know that you are the attorney on the commission, and so perhaps you can speak to whether our legislation is sufficiently designed to support the roles and responsibilities of the commission in your assessment.
Well, as Deacon Popo pointed out, the Constitution order gave rise to this Integrity in Public Life Act, Act 1.49. And it mandates the Commission to, as he pointed out, ascertain that public servants comply with the requirements under the Act. So the Commission ensures, or is supposed to ensure, ethical conduct by public servants. Also, to ensure that they are accountable for their actions and their decisions. Also, the Commission is entitled to investigate any breaches of what is mandated by the Act for public servants to do. And the Commission can investigate alleged acts of corruption and non-compliance. There are provisions in the Act designed for this, and the Commission is entitled to pursue the offender by referring it to initially the Public Service Commission or the DPP, depending on the level of grievance. Of course, as time goes by, societies change, and the Act requires a little more teeth to give effect to the functions that the commissioners are supposed to perform. So we are new to the Commission, and therefore it will take us a little time to make the proposals for strengthening the Act. Okay?
Quite agreed, because of course there are a lot of challenges, emerging challenges might I add, that are linked to the advancements in digital technology and what it allows persons to now achieve, albeit on the illegal side of things. And I would like to bring in Mr. Popo, our auditor, into the conversation. Please.
David Polius.
I would like to bring in Mr. Polius into this conversation to speak to some of the financial safeguards that are in place insofar as the function of the Commission is concerned.
Well, what is the primary function of the Commission is to see that there is true accountability by people who perform what you call public functions. Whether you are a public servant, somebody of the political, a member of parliament, these sort of persons are required under the law to make what we call annual declarations. Now, what these declarations are supposed to show, according to the law, is your asset, your liabilities, your source of income, and your interest in any property you may have. So, we are there to ensure that these people who are public officers actually comply with the law by putting forth these declarations. Now, when these declarations have been put forward, there are a number of procedures. There is a form, or there's a document we have that gives you an idea of the various measures that have to be taken to ensure that people comply with the Act. So basically what happens here is that the Commission receives declarations, and after we receive the declarations, then steps are taken to ensure the accuracy and genuineness of these declarations. And in doing so, there are a number of steps which we have to take to ensure that these declarations in fact reflect what is true and fair.
Reverend, thank you so much for that. Reverend, I'm hearing the word compliance coming up a lot. Is that a concern? You indicated, of course, that there are certain conditions, terms and conditions to be adhered to by public servants, to persons in public life in general, or specifically public servants. Can you zoom in on that and on the issue of how much compliance is being received on their part?
Okay, right. Thanks a lot. So as the Commissioner, finished term Commissioner, David was saying, so we have a couple of instruments. One of which is if you're a public servant, and ministers of government, parliamentarians. It goes as far as if you have a commissioned ambassadorial position representing Saint Lucia. So all that's part of the public service. It also covers quasi-statutory institutions, providing public service like WASCO, etc. As Commissioner Finiste was saying, we are basically new on the commission. But from the reports that we have had so far, especially if you go back to the 2019, because we are supposed to give a report to Cabinet on an annual basis. That report and the previous reports would indicate that we have not been able to get 100% compliance, for a number of reasons which we'll not have time to go into. But it is the responsibility of the Commission when you have those non-compliance. For example, I think it was only in 2018 or 19 that we had approximately 50% based on the report. Thereafter, we have not had anything above 50%, but progress has been made. So that the point I want to make is you cannot talk about accountability as a public servant if one does not comply with the constitutional mandate. That is, that people want to know, and we have to be very frank and honest in terms of our conversations, that we know that there is corruption in the public service, there is corruption among politicians, not just in Saint Lucia, the whole wide world. The human being is exposed to corruption, So that when Commissioner Finiste spoke in terms of the amending the legislation, part of the corresponding framework for us in the Caribbean is related to what is called the Jakarta Principles, which ensures that commissions do not operate by themselves, but they do that in collaboration. So, for example, we have a number of entities. In Jamaica, there are a number of mechanisms, and that came out from our last Commonwealth Caribbean Conference, in June. So the point I'm making is that we have to bite it, we have to take it seriously, and that is why amending the legislation is so important, as Commissioner Finiste was saying, that accountability, and transparency. In other words, let's put it another way. If you enter government or any public sector and you enter it for $1,000 in the bank, and overnight you end up with $1 million in 1 month, that, I'm not saying that this is not possible, I'm just saying that in terms of the exponential increase in income, it has to be declared.
Understood, and I would like to invite Commissioner Finiste to weigh on this as well. I'm particularly wondering whether the Commission would perhaps make an approach to its constituents and sensitize them, because perhaps there's a sense of intimidation to disclose and so on. Perhaps you can elaborate on that, the Commission really not being that creature which was designed to attack per se, but to ensure that things are being done correctly and with a level of integrity. Of course, that very keyword, integrity.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, when it's not an attack commission, because one of the things that we do, or we plan to do, as we're doing today, is to try to educate the public as to the existence of the commission, what it is supposed to do, and this medium is our first attempt at doing so. Let the public know there's a commission and the job the commission is supposed to do. And We can only give assistance to the Secretariat.
Please hold that thought. We are in for a break and we will be right back to continue with your points.
Okay.
The Saint Lucia Bureau of Standards, SLBS, would like to inform the public of its upcoming public awareness campaign on August 27th, 2025 in the city of Castries. We will be visiting some of our retailers to answer their questions on our policies and procedures. It is our hope to share important information about mandatory standards and compliance for goods and services. The SLBS, making quality and standards our way of life.
Welcome back as we continue our very interesting discussion with the Saint Lucia Integrity Commission commissioners. Before the break, of course, Commissioner Finster, you were making a very important point.
I was saying that we, as a commission, need to strengthen mechanisms for educating the public about the mandate of the commission, so that they are aware. We need to do a lot of education. I'm sure half of the public in St. Lucia don't know the existence of this commission, and we need to let them know, because it affects a lot of people. It affects a lot of people in public life, bank managers, heads of departments, parliamentarians, and so forth. And as you said, it's not an attack commission. It's a commission to ensure compliance and accountability. That's about it.
Public perception is definitely very key, and it's interesting that on the one hand, Mr. Chair, and of course, Commissioner Polius, you may also weigh in on this. On the one hand, there is a section of the society which is suggesting that the Commission is inactive and is of very limited impact. And on the other hand, there may be the perception that the Commission is going, it's a watchdog or a big bad wolf which is going after. So certainly when you interact in the community, you get various perceptions, and I would like you to share your perspective on this, and then of course I invite Commissioner Polius to share his perspective on this as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, see, the way I look at the functioning of the Integrity Commission, it has to be juxtaposed with the wider society. We are in developing countries. We have limited resources in terms of our development, and as the saying goes, that if one filters the public purse in a way which is not fair and just, then it affects the ability of governments to invest in other areas, whether it's roads, etc. I mean, that goes across the board. The other thing is that insofar as public servants are the service of the wider publics, of all different publics, people will have the perceptions of any institution. We recently had the 11th annual conference of the Commonwealth Caribbean Association of Integrity Commissions, and also anti-corruption bodies. And they have all been involved in ensuring that there is what you call a groundswell, because sometimes change cannot come from the top, but if people are aware and they are, because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation in terms of what the Integrity Commission can do and cannot do. So, for example, we hear people will say that they call a particular talk show, and there is an allegation of corruption by a minister or a public servant. But that is just hearsay, okay? The Commission under the Act cannot take any action unless, for example, you have a written allegation and you have some level of evidence Thereafter, the commission can say, okay, let us investigate. So, so we need to go out there, and those things have been, I mean, in the period 2010-2015, you had jingles being made. There was a workshop by the Saint Lucia Integrity Commission to educate the public in terms of what is the function and the role of the commission. So that's an ongoing work that we need to do to ensure that we can address the gaps in terms of misinformation and disinformation with respect to the role and the functioning of the commission. The other thing I want to say quickly is that the commission is limited. We only have a staff of 1 or 2 persons. You know, when we had that meeting in June, Trinidad has a staff of about 50. Remember Commissioner Matthias? Jamaica has a youth staff. Even Grenada has beefed it up. And because of the beefing up the human resources in Grenada, a couple of people have gone to jail, you know, in terms of accountability. So that's one of the things that we need to bring to the attention of the present government. That look, and also as well, we intend to meet with all parliamentarians, the leader of the opposition, that we cannot be doing what we say that the commission should be doing under the Act, and we have limited resources. So that's another situation that we have to seriously address.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Well, the chairman was just talking about the mandate of the commission to receive complaints from persons. And they send in these complaints, and once we regard them as being sufficiently serious, there is enough evidence we're supposed to pursue. But then again, I can see a little problem with the legislation, because the legislation does not give them what we call whistleblower protection. So that is an area, for example, in the legislation that needs to be beefed up. We want to ensure that when people make complaints, if and when they make their complaints, instead of just talking, that they have some sort of protection, because it's a small society and we don't want people being harassed for making. So whistleblower protection. Mind you, it's an international requirement, because there are standards now for whistleblower protection for banks. If you're in a bank, there is international standards to protect whistleblowers. So this is an example. The commission has another side to it, which is very, very important. And it is the assurance that when you are in public office, there is no evidence whatsoever that your wealth has been gained by illicit means, that you have not used government assets or government revenue to enrich yourself. So by sending in these declarations, for example, and they're being examined, properly examined and verified, and your name not appearing, for example, in the Gazette, because this is one of the things we do when you do not send these declarations. By seeing your name, you can rest assured, or the public can be assured, that you are above board and you are truly accountable or accounting for whatever assets or revenues which you have obtained. So there is the positive side of it. It is, as the other 2 commissioners have said, that it is not an attack dog. It is more an institution to ensure there is accountability, and then people are to reinforce in the public's eye that the people, for example, who are in power are truly people of integrity. They are people that are trustworthy, because we have verified that the assets they own during their stay in public office is truly theirs, and there have been no corruption. So that's the other good side of the commission.
Thank you very much for highlighting that aspect of it. And so I would like our attorney among us, Mrs. Finstay, to elaborate on the concept of whistleblower protection, and maybe as you come through the legislation, you may have cited some areas, as you said, which need strengthening, or you might want to recommend afresh some recommendations as well.
Well, At the moment, we don't have any whistleblower protection in our legislation.
What would that look like, whistleblower protection, for the benefit of our audience who may have no idea what that means?
Okay, I defer to David here, since he is aware of other institutions that have the protection, for him to elaborate on it. If you don't
Well, whistleblower protection normally means that whenever you have signed a document or sent it, it remains confidential. Number one, if there's any, that's number one. Number two, if there's any legal action to be taken against you, you are protected, that the institution protects you. Sometimes, third one with that, sometimes you are even offered physical protection by the state. You are allowed, for example, to give evidence as you see fit. Some people will want to give evidence in public. Some people may want to remain in the background. You are given that facility. You are allowed you are allowed to bring in your own representation, and that is paid for by the entity that you are reporting to. So these are just 5 examples. In other words, as a whistleblower protection is to keep you in the state in which you are when you made the complaint. In terms of you not being anxious, there's no anxiety, threats, accusations, etc. You are protected against these things. That the status you were in at the time you made the report, it remains as it is. That it does not become adversarial to your own interests in your day-to-day life. This basically is the core of what it is.
Okay. This sounds very important, and I'm sure it would encourage persons to come forward.
Provided they are protected.
Yes, by knowing that they are protected, they will definitely be encouraged to come forward. Looking forward to hearing more about your good work as I invite the chair to speak to the report. Our time is winding down, but to speak to the report, I notice you have the Integrity Commission handbook right there. Can you hold it up for the benefit of our viewers? We would be happy to have a look at it. And what does this contain, and how can it assist?
So this is a handbook prepared, like a short companion to guide the Commission in terms of its mandate, the functioning, declarations, etc. So it has all the forms, as the commissioners were saying. But I also want to, as we wind down our discussions, there are a number of best practices throughout the Caribbean, throughout the Commonwealth. And one of the things I agree that we're not there to attack, but we're there to attack corruption. And we have to be very, very, very determined and forceful for a number of reasons, because corruption creates deficits in the development of any country. Now, one of the best practices, for example, the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, they have at the school level, at the infant level, right up, talking about virtues of honesty, of justice. So we intend to model some of these best templates by way of exchange of ideas, by way of training the Commission, so that we can go into schools and tell the school children, look, hey, that if the money is not yours, you should not take it. Some of those Christian virtues. Okay. There's corruption of the mind. So all of that we hope to do to give it a groundswell. So when those young people in the next 20, 30 years grow up, they can make a change.
Okay. Thank you so much. Our time is up, of course, but the discussion was most engaging, and I'm sure we will be hearing more from you and perhaps have you back at a later date. So thank you again, Commissioners. Of course, we have Reverend David Popo, Mrs. Silma Finiste, and Mr. Matthias Polius. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting discussion.